those of you who don't know, my name is Jen Hardy. I'm the COO at the Academy of Motive Action, where we run neuroscience-based trainings for first responders and high stress, high stakes professionals to support them with emotional literacy, resiliency, and communication so that they can thrive not just professionally, but also personally. So today we are talking about just really self-help. So did you know that the self-help industry, it's an industry, is a multi-billion-dollar industry? Not million, multi-billion-dollar industry. In the US, it's said to be around $13 billion as an industry, globally closer to $40 billion industry. And that is only trending upwards as time goes on. So what does that actually include? That self-help industry includes things like books, apps, online courses, and then also seminars, coaching programs, things of that nature. So, it's really interesting because there's this huge industry of self-help and all of these opportunities for you to be able to go help yourself and get into all of these things. But what's interesting about having so many books and so many courses, all these self-led learnings, is that it's still a growing industry and it's still a problem. I wonder why that is. Because as I posted the other day, books, self-led courses, apps can only take you so far. Think about this quote. I'm going to pull it so I don't butcher it. We don't see things as they are. We see things as we are. Or said another way, let's consider that you can't change the way you look at things until the way we look at things changes. And when you consider this industry of self-help, which is still beautiful, y'all, I started with books. That was one of the first things that I did, was start finding books that were exciting and interesting and giving me new information. I'm not saying don't go read books. I'm not saying don't take the courses. I'm not saying don't go do those things. I'm saying they will only take you so far. They will only take you so far, right? And the reason is, and you guys have heard this language before, your reticular activating system, the thing that is deciding what's important and what's not important, to put it simply and not go into a deep rabbit hole, the part of your brain that is supporting your point of view, your model of the world, your current reality, is choosing all of that information. It's deleting, distorting, and generalizing based off of your belief systems, your old stories, your education that you have or that you don't have, all the information you've chosen to take in and all the information you've chosen not to take in, the things you've chosen to reject. So when you're reading and when you're taking these courses, you're still in your own point of view. You're still in your own model of the world. You're still witnessing, listening, experiencing from your point of view without having someone to actually challenge that point of view. So about, at this point, 2016, so we're getting close to 10 years ago, I was very, very much in victim mode. Life was very much always happening to me. Everything with my family was always happening to me. And then I was very much also villainizing all of these people in my life. Sorry, my hair is just all over the place. So I'm just and it's also been at the same time having these really good hair days. I just feel like playing with it. Okay, back to the story. So 2016, total victim mode. 2016 is when I went and took Landmark, which was my first weekend seminar I was in need of a shift because, as I mentioned, it was a very, very victim mindset. Poor me, pitiful me, nobody loves me, nobody wants to be around me. The world is happening to me all of the time. I had just gone through a bad breakup. I wasn't doing well with my family. There were just so many different things that weren't going very well. So I went in this program called Landmark, and that was my first real introduction into awareness into shifting my own personal perspective. I had done some counseling before that, like gone to see a counselor and just doing some talks, and I'd started reading the books and I'd started doing some of the self-help things, but there were still some major things that weren't shifting and weren't changing. One of them being my relationship with my father. Many of you know my relationship with my father now as being a really positive one, a really impactful one. Growing up though, my father and I weren't very close, and we just kept pulling further and further and further and further and further apart. And there'd been many times where I had pushed him away, didn't want to talk to him, told him I wouldn't talk to him. We hadn't said I love you to each other in years, maybe even decades at that point in time. And yet I'm very clear that that was like the only thing I wanted was dad's love, right? Was to be loved and be seen as somebody he was proud of. And so I go to Landmark, and I have no intention of going to Landmark to work on my family or my relationship with my father. I go to Landmark because I just had a really bad breakup. It felt like a different version of the same breakup. And I was just, oh, the problem is me, like I'm the only common denominator, blah, 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 right? So I go to Landmark, and I realize through having my belief systems and my point of views challenged by someone outside of me that I had been in victim mode. And I realize that my dad and I's relationship was 100% my creation. I'm the one who had been pushing him away. I'm the one who had stopped telling him I loved him. And I realized that I stopped telling him I loved him because it gave me power. Not the kind of power I wanted, but it gave me some sort of intrinsic power where I felt like I was getting to pull the strings by being the one who controlled the love in the situation. Yeah, right? Ugh. So you kind of like, you realize like, oh yay, everything I have is on me. Yep. Well, welcome to awareness, y'all. Welcome to self-awareness. It's so fun, but it really is. So anyways, I realize that I'm pulling the strings, that I'm the one keeping this relationship at a distance and not the way I want it. And I'm immediately like grossed out by how it all came up and just realizing like, oh my God, I've been doing this. But then just as quickly, I'm like, oh my God, that means I can do something about it. I might be able to change this. So I decided to call my dad that same day, by the way. And I actually call him from my car, and I've like written out some stuff that I want to say, and I call him and I'm just like bawling, and I'm like, Dad, I need to tell you some things, and I need you to shut up and let me get through it, or I'm never gonna get through it. And he's over there like, eh? And so he does. Gratefully, he just stays quiet and lets me share. And I tell him all the things. I tell him that I've been withholding my love because it gave me power and a sense of control in the situation, and that I'm so sorry, that it's not what I want, that all I want is to have a relationship with him, that I love him, that he's my hero, and I'm done with this way of living. I'm done with our relationship being like this. Life's too short. I want to have a relationship. I'm gonna hug him when I see him, whether he likes it or not. I'm gonna tell him I love him when I see him, whether he likes it or not. And I finish and I'm like, okay, I'm done now. You can, okay, what do you need to say? Or and I have no idea what he's going to say, y'all. I don't know how he's going to take this information. And honestly, he says, first of all, he says, thank you for sharing. I'm really glad that you're doing some work for yourself. And he's like, I really needed to hear this because like, I didn't think you wanted to hear I love you from me anymore. Right? Like, talk about creating your own reality. And I'm like, ugh. And he's like, I love you too. I mean, I'm so proud of who you've become and the things you're doing. And yes, I want to have a relationship. That conversation took 5 minutes, maybe 7. And our relationship has literally never been the same since 2016. In fact, those of you who know that I moved to San Antonio at one point in time, that never would have happened. I never would have moved to San Antonio had we not healed that relationship. I ended up not only moving to San Antonio where my dad lives, but I ended up supporting their business and getting involved. That would have never happened either. And it gave me so much insight and awareness into who I am now and so many different opportunities to shift and transform. But it all started with awareness. It started with someone being there to challenge my perspective, to challenge my belief systems, because I had all these beliefs that I wasn't worthy of love, I wasn't good enough for love, that I wasn't as good as my sister, or that, just all of these things that were getting in the way of me being able to even see I was creating my reality. Now, let me be clear. I recognize not everybody's going to get lucky enough to have the conversation that I had with my dad and have him react the way he reacted, and for him to actually acknowledge and want a relationship. But that is the risk we take when it's what we want. When we realize I want this and I want to heal this and I want to transform this and I'm going to have this conversation. And it's because it's not actually about how he's going to receive it, how he's going to take it. It was more about me and me getting to acknowledge how I've been showing up in the world and choosing a new way. But again, none of this would happen if I didn't have a chance to be in a room with someone else, in this case trained, to be able to challenge my perceptions, my beliefs, my current model of the world, my current point of view of the world, right? Because again, the way we see things don't change until we change the way we see things, and we can't change the way we see things until we start doing the internal work and realizing what our perceptions are. Your belief systems of who you think you are and how you think you show up and what you think you say and what you think you do and all these things, worthy, not good enough, not lovable, being a burden, not smart enough, like all these things are impacting how you're receiving information. And until we get fully aware of what those are, how are we supposed to do anything about it? And again, having someone who can challenge and can hear your language about how you're relating to reality and how you're taking in what you're receiving, and have them go, how's that a problem? We're like, is that true? Like true, like true, right? Because most stories, I'm not lovable, I'm not worthy, they aren't true. They're just stories that we created at some point in life. You may not be ready to really dive into, let's call it self-awareness, and go to a seminar and get engaged in a program, or to hire a coach, like to come to one of our classes, or to hire someone like me as a coach. Like, I get that. There's a lot of fear in this space too, because once you're aware, you're aware. It's like once you take the blue pill, like you've taken it, you're out of the matrix, you see things now, and you can't really go back. You'll just see yourself do the unproductive and not fun patterns. Like, I remember once I did move to San Antonio, I was working with my dad and my sister and I have also been healing our relationship for the last 10 years as well. And, now we're closer than ever, as many of you know. But I remember being at the gym, and I'm not gonna get into the details, but let's just say, like, she was doing something that I knew he didn't like at the gym. And I saw her doing it, and at that point in time, I'm just kind of like, okay, again, we're still in the middle, we're still healing. There was still a lot of stuff going on between me and the sister at this point in time. We just started our journey. Anyway, she walks away, goes away to do something, this, that, and the other. And then my dad walks up, and he brings up an element of what she was doing as a problem in the gym currently. And I'm like, well, this is coming out of my mouth. And I'm like, well, when your fitness director is doing this, that, and the other, how do you expect your members to fall in place, or to expect your other employees to fall in place? And he's like, what? And he's like immediately angry and about to go rip my sister to shreds. Now, while these words are coming out of my mouth, throwing my sister under the bus, I'm like witnessing it from up here, like watching myself talk, going, no, stop it, put it back in your mouth, shh, no, don't, oh God, you did it, you said it, you did that, yep, you threw her under, damn, you just threw her ass under the bus. And he walked away, and I was just like, shit, I just threw her under the bus hard. So he did. He walked away and he went and ripped her ass. And of course, then an hour or two later, she comes back and tells me, Dad, this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. And I look at her and I'm like, well, I gotta tell you something. And I'm like, fuck this. And I told her exactly what I did just now. And I told her that I said that and that he probably came and yelled at her because of what I did. And I acknowledged, like, I watched myself doing it and I couldn't stop myself, and I'm so sorry. Like, this is not who I'm committed to being in our sisterhood, and like, I couldn't stop it coming out of my mouth. I'm so sorry. I'm working on it. And my sister looked at me and she was like, fuck you. And I love you. Thank you for telling me, and thank you for letting me know that you're working on it. So it's like, so like having that fear of becoming aware and having to step into self-awareness, I get it, y'all. Because then you have to start taking responsibility for your life in really profound, sometimes intense and very challenging ways that a lot of people aren't ready for. Stepping into who you actually are and like having the integrity to live up to that, it can be a lot. It can feel like, oh my God, I don't know if I want to do that. Like, I can appreciate it. I get it. How so many people are like, no, just give me a book. And then just, do you have a course that I can like do on my own time? Like, people will tell me, well, I don't really have time for that. And I'm like, you may not, but I bet that there's something else there. There's probably some discomfort and fear around the possibility of actually having to become aware, because so many elements of life dramatically change. You could have to let go of people you don't want to let go of. People could just want to leave and not be around you anymore because now you are aware in a way that you were not before. And then again, the integrity to live up to who you say you are in those moments. Like for me, going to my sister and telling her like, yeah, that was my fault, dude. I did that. So, you know, awareness truly is the first step towards transformation, the first step towards really empowering yourself, the first step towards taking those reins back in your hands. And I just want to acknowledge that if the fear of that is there for you, like, it's okay. Like, it's okay. Acknowledge the fear. And why don't you start by stepping into like, what am I really afraid of? What would change in my life, for better or worse, however you want to define that, if I did become aware, if I was truly responsible, if I did really get present to what's actually going on and how I'm creating the life around me? And then ask yourself, like, is it worth it to stay over here or go over here and get a supportive community, find a supportive community where I can dig into these spaces and feel safe and feel vulnerable and feel supported? And I think that's another element is finding communities where you can be challenged in a safe way, where you can be vulnerable and you can be scared and you can not know how to navigate it, and have people to help you navigate it. It's literally part of what we do. And I will say, be aware out in this industry, because it is a multi-billion-dollar industry. A lot of people are just calling themselves coaches. A lot of people are just going out there and getting certified for $49 and then calling themselves a coach. You know, a lot of people aren't getting any kind of certifications and have just decided, well, this worked for me, so it will work for you. Here's my proven program. Run from that shit, because no one thing works for any one person. We've all got our own trauma and we've all defined it internally in our own way, and you want to find a community or a coach or people who want to support you to navigate your own traumas and histories and stories in a way that allows you to discover what you need and where you need to go from here versus this is what you need to do. So having someone who can ask really good questions and wants to support you with tools and things, but not trying to say this is what you need to do. You know, like I just don't agree with just, you know, unsolicited advice givers, or this is what worked for me, so it'll probably work for you. Like, yeah, that shit ain't, this is, no, for so many reasons. So, you know, if you are going to go look for a coach, if you are going to go look for a program, like, get inquisitive. ask really good questions about these people. How are you trained? What are you trained in? And I'm not saying that everybody needs to be trained, because life's a fucking great teacher. And if they're not, that's fine. Dig into then, why do they believe they're the best person to support and guide you in these spaces? And just make sure that you feel really good about their answers. Because that's, this is your life we're talking about here. And some people can do more harm than good. And we want to make sure and really just pay attention to that. So self-help is a beautiful space, and a space where I think a lot of people start. And that fear can keep us stuck there, but it's okay to acknowledge the fear. Dig into the fear. Find out, what am I actually afraid of? What will actually change that is so scary? Internally, externally, and all of the above. And how can I choose to navigate that when I'm ready? And what do I want? Do I want an individual coach? Do I want a group community? Do I want to just dive into like education type stuff first? And how do I want to take this journey, and where do I want to begin? But self-awareness is your first step towards truly empowering yourself, towards truly taking the reins back to your life, to transforming the things in your life that you're like, ugh, I'm just done with the way this is going, whatever this is. And being willing to start considering what that actually would be for yourself, versus I just don't have time, I just don't have the money. Those things might be true, and sometimes they're being supported by some other fears, which again are valid. And dive into those fears when you're ready, and take a look at them. That's your first step towards being aware. Get aware of what the fears are to becoming aware. And again, this is the kind of stuff Irina and I do with the Academy Mode of Action. We want to support you to have a way to challenge your own belief systems. And we're not getting in there and digging into you. And we are going to ask you questions, and we're going to ask you to consider. And if you get to that space that just scares you and doesn't work for you, then we're going to support you in that space and navigate it with you and help you find your way. So anyway, I hope this is useful and insightful, and just gives you something to consider, because we all deserve to have the life we desire. And we are the only ones stopping ourselves from having that. And to get those things, we just got to start practicing that awareness of self. And whether that be a community, whether that be a coach, or maybe you just start asking your friends and family to listen to you differently, and to let you know when they hear, maybe it's a victim mentality, or maybe they just hear belief systems about yourself. I know I always ask my sister and my best friends, Irina and Amanda and Natalie and Steph, and I'm asking them, like, what are you hearing me say? Like, catch me, let me know when I'm saying something really disempowering about myself or my circumstances, so that I can get present to it. So anyway, if there's anything we can do to support you and help you in these spaces, please let us know. And I'm wishing you all the best in this month of August and moving into the end of your year. Catch you next month.